Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, I saw a post that I'm gonna put in the front of the video where it essentially points out a wicked stepmom, okay? And she was eating in front of the stepchild, didn't offer her any food. And this really resonated with me because I've shared this story before. When I was younger, my dad had taken me over to a relative of my stepmom's house, and one of the women who was there, who was related to my stepmom, had a sort of goth look to her. They had a pet tarantula. It's kind of a little creepy bit. And she was dating this heavy metal looking goth guy. And he took all the kids that were there to get McDonald's, and I stayed there because there wasn't enough room in the car, and they all came back and were eating. And I asked, "Where's mine?" And he said, "I'm not gonna feed so-and-so's daughter. That's his kid, not mine." He said something along that line, I'm not gonna feed blank's daughter. And I remember that, and it was such a terrible feeling. I was sitting on the couch, and I could still remember the way the living room looked, and I just sat there waiting, bored, unhappy. And I resented that kind of feeling where you're not being included when it comes to food. And if you recall my history with food, I grew up with a lot of food insecurity, and I'm someone who shares food. I'm very giving in that way. If you recall, if you're a follower of the channel, I had some videos in the past where I discussed the gluttony of certain chefs, and I'm not sure if I still have those up, but they were when I used to walk by the ocean and talk about stuff after work. And how I disliked how managers were able to eat as much as they wanted, whereas we staff were limited, and we also had to pay 50%, which I felt was wrong, because if we're a team and we're a big family, we should all be entitled to food. And I really disliked the food used as a sort of weapon and whatnot, and that I enjoyed more of the family meal strategies that restaurants do, where there's a buffet and people can pick from it. It's called family meal, so everyone gets fed equally and stuff like that. And I favor that, because I'm not a person who likes to exclude people food wise, because it's not hospitable, right? So this woman filming herself being mean to a child really just hits the nail on the head, how we have to try to warm people's hearts towards motherhood, because children suffer greatly when they have a wicked stepmom. It's very common to remember how dangerous men are as stepfathers to little boys and little girls, because of, we all know why, but it's often only put in cartoons, really, like Cinderella, right? The wicked stepmom trope. It's put in cartoons, so I would argue it's not discussed as much because it's more psychological rather than a physical assault. And I feel like that sometimes ignores what it would be like to have a wicked stepmom. I had two stepmoms, both were strippers, both were alcoholics, and one was okay because she was go hiking, and she never hit me or anything. But when I had a more jive stepmom the second round, she was bougie, very, very unloving. And so I do understand. And when I would call my dad, she would grab the phone, and I'd be talking to him on the phone. She'd lock him out of the house. She was a totally evil person. And when I got Bell's palsy, She told me that's God punishing you. And I was really young in high school, and I was freaking out because I didn't understand why I had it. You know, I had cried so much because of a relationship thing. And I woke up the next day with Bell's palsy, and there's a lot of science out on how stress can, you know, disrupt the veins in you. And I had to get acupuncture to get most of my muscle tissue in my face to go back to normal. And it was a very dark time for me. I had to tape my eyes shut at night, which hurt really bad because the skin becomes raw from applying tape, ripping it off, applying and ripping it off. And then having the side of my mouth droop was like permanent damage. And it was an extreme test, you know. They still have damage from it today. And having a stepmom that you can't love when you're a motherless child is brutal. You know, like my own mom wasn't there for most of my life. And so you cling to your stepmom as a little girl. And when she's not loving and doesn't care for you, there's like this starving notion that sticks with you for life. And I think that's why I'm so attached to my children now. Is, you know, I just can't, like, you still have to, like, no one will be a perfect parent. Everyone will make mistakes. It's just the way life is. But there are deliberate things people do to be cruel. And this stepmom did something that was deliberately cruel. It's different if, like, okay, your kid didn't do their homework, so they didn't get a treat from the gas station, right? That's quite different. But this woman was essentially saying, like, she's not mine, so I don't have to feed her. And I just found that to be really sad. And that little girl, her, like, serious face, looking at the camera. And they were also eating fast food, so it, like, really hit home. So I think it's important to discuss how to be good stepmoms, because Islam allows polygamy. And your husband is going to have children by other women. Now, you're not, I don't think, you're not a stepmom, but you kind of are in a way. Because they might visit your kids, and your kids should all play together, and you need to treat those children with respect. Now, I don't see, I haven't seen any Muslim women online discussing some of the things I discuss on the vast range of topics. You know, so I feel like it's incumbent upon American Muslims, especially me being one, how we would navigate being kind to all the children of your husband. How being mean to that child should disqualify you and qualify you for a divorce, I'd argue. That I really hope men, that they wake up to the type of women they marry and think, is she going to be a safe stepmom? If she becomes my third wife, will she be kind to my children? Will she poison them? Will she hate them? Will she give them the evil eye? You know, it's not just about her being beautiful and making you hormonally excited. It's about how she's going to treat your children. And I think so many times that doesn't come up in the conversation. You don't see these red pillars talking about pick a woman who you feel is going to be a safe stepmom. It's all about run through as many women as you can. And it's just not conducive towards creating a new modern hybrid family. There's a lot of stepmoms in the world, okay? And there's divorced men who have children and they have to get someone else. And since polygamy is on the rise, we have to discuss the ethics of being a good stepmom. And I think people who have a soft heart for children in general would never deliberately leave a child out and isolate them, right? And I know that a lot of women would not like it if the stepfather, like, you have children with him, but you also have stepkids, right? That if he just only gave food to his kids and not your kids, like his stepchildren, you would be upset. Do you know what I mean? Women would be like, how could you bring food only for your children and not the other children when we all live together. You see what I'm saying? So we have to keep up that same ethics. And children are innocent, they're needy, and being kind to them is an act of goodness, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always rewards an act of goodness. Now, a lot of red pill Muslims will say, being a stepdad is a cuck. You don't have to be nice to those kids, essentially, because they're not your responsibility, and you don't get any benefit from them, and if you separate with her, you get nothing back. You have no rights to those kids, so why even bother? I think that's a really sick way to look at being cordial, respectful, and kind and merciful to children. Just because you aren't sleeping and clapping cheeks with their mom, that somehow you don't have to extend human dignity to them and trying to be the best stepdad you can be. Even if the mom doesn't appreciate you, you're still having that written down in your record of good deeds, which is my point. And so I think it's important for us to maybe have conversations with our daughters. You never know if one day they might become a stepmom. And in the end times, isn't it said that a man will be polygamous? Many men will be taking care of many women, right? So he, by necessity and an essentially implication, that means he's going to have children with multiple women, right? So would it be peaceful and civil to be cruel to those children? And how can women help their hearts to become softer towards children? I think that's another thing about abortion culture, is it dehumanizes babies, and this in turn makes women less nurturing and more cold and callous because they don't appreciate life, they don't appreciate fertility, and they have poor taste in men, and they don't have higher standards of who they sleep with. So taking a life for them is quite trivial and easy, and they celebrate it with abortion cakes and abortion parties. I've shared those posts in the past. So this type of coldness towards innocent children, I would say, extends out to children in general, which makes them essentially risky step-parents because they don't value children in and of themselves. So if you're seeking a second wife, or even your first wife, or whatever, you know, you don't know if you're going to get divorced and you get remarried. You don't want your ex-wife to be a threat to your new children, right? So it would be very important for the men to have discussions about picking a woman not just for her beauty, but for how she treats children and how she would treat stepchildren, and for people to have a serious conversation about that, to point out to one another, hey, if we separate, are you the type of person who would be kind to my children, or would you hate those children because they're by a new woman? And then this goes in further into jealousy and wretchedness and envy. And I would argue women have to really work on those negative traits, because we'll hear a lot about the brotherhood that men have, and then feminists will argue that there's some type of sisterhood, when in reality I don't think there is, because by definition, if there was a sisterhood of women that was truly based on your biology and the essence of being a woman, you would see more kind stepmothers who have mercy upon a motherless child, right? And having mercy towards a motherless child and your stepchildren, it is a sign of true nobility, true honor, true virtue. Don't look down upon them. Maybe like their mom has fallen into drugs and they need a hero be their hero. It can hurt, right? Like I think the most strong women. I'm gonna give a fictional example, but I hope that I could be so strong and so merciful towards children that if my husband were to commit an affair, and let's say the woman gives birth and I'm lactating right at the same time she gives birth, and she passes away, I'll take that baby and nurse that baby and raise it as my own. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I would be strong enough to not hate the child because of the mother or the actions of the man, but to be a wing, a shelter, a shield, a guardian to that innocent baby, because they need them, and feed them from my own bosom. To have true empathy and love, because babies deserve to be protected. Little girls, they deserve to have somebody to help them, to guide them. And a little boy, he can maybe have a bad relationship with his mom, but if he has a good stepmom, it might help the way in which he views women. So regardless, if you are a good stepmother, you can be a hero. Why not? You know? Be a sense of knowledge, safety, and security, a beacon of hope for that stepchild. It's interesting though, but it's a hard thing to hope for, because it does boil down to men only valuing beauty first. That's the weapon of beauty in a way. They will sacrifice the safety, happiness, and sustainability of their children because a woman excites them, makes them lust. And I think that's why so many wicked women exist and became mothers, because men ignored red flags, didn't care about their children and offspring enough, and they only thought about temporary pleasure. And children were burdened with wicked mothers and wicked stepmothers because men were ruled by their beastly desires instead of actually being reasonable and logical. Men will often insult women and call them emotional, but men are hormonal, almost animalistic in a way in which just a woman batting her eyes or having a certain breast size, they will go nuts and not be able to resist. I think that's why Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, is such an integral example for men, because he resisted and he feared Allah, right? That's why these red pill Muslims who are saying do a no strings nikah, they're teaching men not to look for proper stepmothers, but just to use those women as human fleshlights and then discard them in the hotel, and those women have a job, they have their kids, so you're really reducing marriage and loyalty and fidelity and honor culture down to just the action of prostitution. It's fake marriage. And it's a fake piece of paper that doesn't have any true rights and honor and dignity attached to it. It's just like a coupon where you text that person and say, meet up in the hotel. And then, especially if it's a secret wife. If you're setting yourself up for a failure, if you have two secret wives and one of your wives dies and you have a secret child with her, you'd want that child to be welcome into your main wife's love circle, her protection. But if you kept that child a secret, now you've created a rift in that woman's heart because you were a, degenerate man who decided to do sneaky things instead of just to be open and honest. And it's really quite sad, because this sets the child up at a disadvantage and just goes to show that the preaching of so many red pill Muslims is actually anti-family and promotes wicked stepmoms. And I don't think that makes the world a better place for children. I don't think that pushes piety. And I really do hope that more Muslim women can talk about real issues and be a part of the mission that is fighting evil, because evil has so many faces and the war never ends. And helping women to be good stepmoms is really important, and the life skill of navigating the mind of a child who isn't genetically related to you. So they'll have different traits. So notice this. If you go to your child's classroom, you're kind to those children in the classroom. But all of a sudden, you meet the child of your husband who isn't yours, and all of a sudden there's this anger there. And I think that's a form of, wickedness. Because why does that child deserve for you as a woman to look at it meaner? Because you are so insecure in your own self. And you think you can possess a man when you can't. So why would you be mean to a child and unwelcoming just because the child's father loved someone before you? Or got someone else pregnant in the past? To hate his mom is stupid too. You don't need to have hate for the woman. And so, I'd argue we need to have more serious conversations with our daughters to be kind to children, to help them become better, and that it is noble to be a good stepmother, and one should try to be a great stepmother. And the ways in which you can do that, to include that child. When they come over to visit, never make them feel awkward. Always give them a happy tale to tell their mother, because their mother's worried about them. Oh, is she gonna do this to my child? Is she gonna do that? She's scared. She's scared of you as the stepmom. And you never know if you're gonna have to, okay, so you may be comfortable in your marriage. And maybe an arrogant twat who thinks, oh, I'm never gonna be divorced or this or that. But in reality, it could totally happen to you. And if your child goes to the house of the new wife, you'll be scared too if your ex-husband didn't pick a quality woman. Like, he didn't really analyze this woman. He just picked her because she's, pretty, right? And lustful. And now she's cruel to your child and makes the relationship strained and creates drama because of her bad behavior towards the children. And children do not forget a wicked stepmom. And so a mom can be like, I'm scared to send my child over to visit their father because I don't know what the behavior patterns are of this new woman. So we have to examine it from both sides. We want to hope that if our child visits and the stepmother is there, we want our child to be cared for, loved, for that woman to treat our child with decency and grace. But we ourselves must have the capacity to be a beacon for children to come to, regardless of who their father is and who their mother is. We have to be kind to them and help them. Discipline is great, and that child may be living, with so much mental trauma that if you become a stable force in their lives, even if their father leaves you and goes to another woman, they may maintain contact with you. Be so kind to them that they want to maintain contact with you. I think that's a noble goal. Noble goal. So, examine that and have discussions about it. Talk to your sons. Hey, make sure you not only pick a woman who is wife material and mother material, but stepmother material. And if you plan to be polygamous, you need to do excellent vetting and bring up that subject directly. It's not just about looks. The human eye is a test and trial. And women need to pick better stepfathers, but that's a different conversation than the one at hand. But let us all pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we will be good stepmothers, safe stepmothers, cook them nutritious meals, care about their welfare, give them little gifts, and help them with their homework and be a sense of safety. I'm not a stepmom, but if I ever had to be, I would hope that I would do it well to where Allah would be pleased with me. Let me know what you think. If you'd like to join my blog and help me fundraise to get a book holder and this wall thing that goes on the back when you do videos and stuff, or a privacy veil you call it, you can join the blog, and once I get it, I'll make a video saying I got it. Just check my community tab. You'll see the designs there. I needed like basically close to $500 because shipping and taxes on top of the price. So support what you love, and your money will be put to use with educational stuff. I hope you enjoyed the video, and take care.